In this video, we are going to use tried and true methods to record good old rock and roll. I'm just going to come up with a riff. I'm going to play drums. I'm going to try to play drums. We're going to try and put together the rhythm section of a rock style type song. Let's do it. There's a Tom Star 2 Hard Canadian Maple. I believe it's from the 80s. So right outside the hole is an MZ204 from Yamaha. And I got it just about an inch inside the hole right here. All right, Yamaha MZ204. Then I have a Solomon Subkick mic right here. And then I have a Neumann FET 47 right here. All three of these are phase correct. And I have this kit tuned kind of low. It's a lower register. The snare drum has 3 microphones on it as well. It has a Shure SM57 on the top, a Shure SM57 here on the bottom. Then I have a Shure SM81 right here on the top. All right, so 3 microphones on the kick, 3 microphones on the snare, and I'm going to show you how I treat these microphones, all right, and why I'm using 3. If you've seen my other videos, a lot of times I use 2. Today we're doing something a little different, but I've done it many times recording bands. So the snare is a Black Beauty. This is just a typical one you could buy from Guitar Center. It's a Ludwig Black Beauty. So the toms are mic'd with 421s, which I really like on toms and guitars. And the hi-hat is a KM84 from Neumann. Then we have the stereo overheads, which are Mojave MA300s, phase correct, equal distance from the snare. Then for a mono room mic, I have a Neumann U87 from 1974. And then for a stereo room mic, I have an R88, which is a stereo ribbon mic. And that is it. That's 14 mics on the kit. Today, for my cymbals, I am using custom Ks, dark crashes. This is a 16 and an 18. I want to get, I'll put the 18 over here and I'll put a 19 or a 20 over here eventually. And then the hi-hat and ride are from the 60s. So that is the drums in my room. So all these mics are coming through in the preamps into my control room. And it's pretty standard how I do it, because I usually do it the same way because it's what works for me. Inside kick, the MZ204 is right here in API 312. The Solomon is this API 312, which is the sub mic kick. The SM57s top and bottom, API 312s. 421s on toms, API 312s. Stereo overhead Mojaves is these pair of 312s. And then you have the hi-hat, which is the KM84, and the mono room, which is the U87. Then for the R88 stereo room, I have a pair of Neves. The third mic I'm using on the kick and snare, which is the FET47 and the Shure SM81, are being treated with EQ right here. Compression, I'm using 1176 on each. This is the kick, that's the snare. And then I'm using the Pultex on the kick and the snare. And that is it for the drums. I'm using my 1979 Les Paul Special with its P90s that I love, absolutely. Into a 1979 Marshall JMP 100 watt, going into its original cab, and it is mic'd with a 421 U5 and an SM57, which are phase correct. The cab is loaded with G12M 25 watt blackbacks, which is a very creamy sounding speaker. Those two microphones are coming into these pair of Neve 1272s right here. And man, do they just sound fat and creamy. So I'll walk you through my keyboard track. So this is a Yamaha CP. It's basically just a little keyboard. Has Rode 1 and 2, a Whirly, a clav, a toy piano, and a CP. It's got a drive circuit, volume and octave. And then it has some cool effects. So it has tremolo and wah. You can switch between tremolo and wah or nothing, which I'm not using either of that. And then it has depth and rate. And then it has a coarse and a phaser. Same thing, depth and speed. I am using the coarse. And then it has digital delay and analog delay with some depth and timing. And then it has reverb. This is a very cool, small but very cool and high quality little keyboard. It's very cool for sprinkling some cool stuff to tracks, just underlying or whatever. This is a very cool piece. All right, so let me show you what amp that's going into. It's going to this old 1960s Organ Mate. It's got the original tag on it, which is pretty amazing. And it's just a solid state amp. It's literally something you'd see in a church. It's called the Organ Mate that you'd plug an organ into. It's just a solid state amplifier. And it has a 112-inch speaker and then just a gain knob on it there. And this is mic'd with the Sennheiser 441. Amazing microphone. That microphone is going into the Langevin AM16. Love those pre's. Coming out of this pre into an 1176 compressor. Out of the 1176 into a Pultex style EQ. Out of the EQ into the Burl Mothership. Out of the Burl Mothership into Pro Tools. And that is my little Yamaha keyboard. I reused the U87 that I was using as a mono room mic. I got that coming through into a Langevin AM16. This is from an old session, so ignore the tape. Through the burls straight into Pro Tools. And I have to mention, Tambourine is not as easy to record as you would think. It is very loud and will be the loudest thing in your mix if you do not record it correctly. So, that being said, I put the U87 in Omni. Let's go look at that before I recorded. You can see right here that it's an Omni, not cardioid. And I was about maybe 2.5 feet away from it, just using the same mic I used as mono room. I was thinking about using my MA300s, just how they were standing behind the kit and doing a stereo of the Tambourine, which is a great idea. But I decided to just go with the mono U87 as the Tambourine mic into the Longevin AM16, which is an amazing preamp and one of the few classic preamps from the 50s and 60s that you could still get for a pretty damn good price. So if you want a vintage preamp that sounds just as good as a Neve or an API, Longevin AM16s. And they are huge transformer in, huge transformer out, and everything in between is discrete transistors. All right. So that was the Tambourine track. So we're at the point where I don't have any compression or EQ. I have it turned on, but I don't have any engaged. None is patched into my channels. As you can see right there, there's no compression or EQ. I just wanted to record the basics of a rock track and see how good we could get it within a couple hours.